Hi, I'm Sierra Morris and this is Chuck and the Chicks. In this video, I'll be talking about feeding your chickens healthy kitchen scraps, how to know which kitchen scraps are healthy for your chickens. Before we dive into the particulars of this conversation, I just want to stress that with our backyard chicken lived experience, we have always used a combination approach. Kitchen scraps are a supplement for complete layer feed. They are not a substitute for chicken feed. We feed kitchen scraps as treats to supplement our processed layer feed and make it stretch further, and also to provide our chickens with excellent nutrition with food that we would just compost or throw out anyway. So I want to stress that kitchen scraps are not a replacement for processed layer feed, but they are a way to supplement your current layer feed, whichever brand you're using, to provide your chickens with excellent nutrition. And just to go a little bit further along that line of conversation, you might ask, well, why isn't it possible to provide your chickens with a complete diet on just kitchen scraps? I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'm going to say that it's nearly impossible. I don't know about you, but if you've ever looked on the back of your processed layer feed and looked at all the different qualities and quantities of the different vitamins and nutrients that your chickens need, I am not a math person. I do not have time to break down the percentages and the quality of every single food scrap item that I'm feeding my chickens, and so I rely on the processed layer feed supplemented by the kitchen scraps to make sure that my chickens get complete nutrition. Layers need 16% protein to be able to be productive and healthy, and it's very unlikely just in the course of feeding them kitchen scraps on a whim that you're going to hit all of those nutritional markers, including things like calcium and other nutrients. So the method that has worked for us and that takes the math and the guesswork out of it is to provide them with their complete nutritionally sound layer feed in addition to kitchen scraps. Modern backyard chickens that we have today are night and day different from the chickens that people had even just a few hundred years ago. A few hundred years ago, a chicken would be expected to lay about 100 eggs in a year. Most modern backyard breeds, especially high production egg layers, which many people keep in their backyard flocks, lay upwards of 300 eggs a year. So it's just night and day difference the way that man has, through selective breeding, changed the abilities of these animals. But with their increased productivity comes an increased requirement for excellent nutrition, which again is why I stress that kitchen scraps are a great way to supplement your nutritionally complete layer feed, but they're not a replacement for it. It's not possible for your chickens to be as healthy and productive as possible without having complete nutrition. And I'm only speaking to our lived experience that the best way I have found to make sure that my chickens stay healthy, happy, and productive without sitting down and having to do a bunch of math is to use the kitchen scraps as a treat and as a supplement to their complete layer feed, whichever brand you found works for you and your flock. So feeding kitchen scraps as a treat is an absolutely excellent way to introduce high quality nutrition into your chicken's diet with food, again, that you would probably compost or just throw away anyway. There are so many foods that your chickens can enjoy that your family just didn't utilize, and it helps you stretch your layer feed by supplementing with nutritious snacks. So to start with, vegetables, almost all cooked and raw vegetables, are safe to feed to your chickens with a few exceptions, and I'll go over those towards the end of the video. Some really safe ones are broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, spinach, kale. Mine are particularly fond of chard, lettuce. Salad components are safe for your chickens. Corn, peas, squash, and melons are also safe for your chickens. It's a really great boredom buster in the fall or in the summer to half a pumpkin or to half a watermelon and let your chickens just eat that down to the skin. They will really enjoy that as a wonderful, nutritious treat. All of those things are safe to feed to your chickens. Peas are also a great way to introduce a little bit of additional protein to their diet. If you're having trouble keeping your chickens cool in the summer, you can also put some of these vegetables in a bowl of cool water and they'll get hydrated while they're enjoying their snack. So cooked and already prepared grains are safe for your chickens. Rice, wheat, and oatmeal and other grains are fine for them to eat, but the caveat being they have to be cooked beforehand. Never feed your chickens raw rice, raw beans, raw anything that's going to expand in their stomach once it hits moisture. So these things are safe for your chickens once they've been cooked and processed and are already done expanding, but never feed your chickens raw grains or anything that will expand in their stomach. Fruit scraps are great for your chickens. Mine are particularly fond of apples. You can also feed them berries, tomatoes, cucumbers are also great choices for your chickens. Safe fruits for them, mild fruits. I tend to stay away from any of the more exotic or acidic fruits, and that's a personal flock choice for me. Some people have had great experiences with that. I just tend to stay on the milder side. So again, the apples, berries, tomatoes, and cucumbers are also great kitchen scraps for your chickens. Cooked lean meats are safe for your chickens. Again, make sure that they're cooked and not raw. Don't ever feed your chickens raw meat because this can contain bacteria which can be harmful for them. But safe lean meats that have already been cooked and cut into small manageable pieces are safe for your chickens. I choose not to feed my chickens chicken. That again, that's just a personal choice, and you guys can duke it out in the comments how you feel about that. But again, I just don't, because on a level I fear of transfer of disease from them eating other chickens, and also just as a moral, ew, I don't do that. But I do feed them other forms of meat. Mine particularly enjoy tiny dices of little ham occasionally when we have some scraps of that left over. Again, lean meats cut into small, manageable pieces that have been cooked are safe for your chickens. They also enjoy the occasional can of tuna or something along those lines. Bread and pasta in very small amounts and in moderation once they've been cooked are okay for your chickens. Make sure that the bread is not moldy. Moldy bread is not good for them, but small pieces of leftover stale bread are absolutely fine. And also cooked noodles can make a really fun and entertaining treat for them as well. But again, because these are starchier foods, I would keep those on the smaller end as far as the portions that you allow them to have, because they're not really nutritionally dense but will make them feel full. But again, in moderation, small amounts of stale bread or noodles are just fine for your chickens. The attitude that I approach feeding kitchen scraps to my chickens is I just want to be sure that I'm feeding them food that my family can't utilize, that it's just a little bit past what we would normally use and that otherwise would go to the compost. But it's very important to not feed your chickens anything with visible mold, anything that smells bad, anything that has discoloration or just is concerning when you smell it, if it smells rancid. You don't want to feed putrid or rotten food to your chickens. It can be just past what you would consider acceptable, but if it's totally rotten, disintegrating, or clearly infested with some sort of mold or bacteria or other sorts of things going on, don't feed that scrap to your chicken. I always go with the rule of thumb, if in doubt, I throw it out, and that works for me and it works for them. If it's going to be something that I even think has a chance of making them sick, I just don't risk it, because a backyard chicken could go from sick to dead very quickly. So I make it a point, if there's any doubt, I just go ahead and rely on their processed complete layer feed and don't feed them that kitchen scrap if I'm not sure. Things that are absolutely not safe to feed to your chickens are the leaves from nightshade plants. So the leaves of the tomato plant, the leaves of the potato plant, those kind of things are not safe for your chicken. But again, the fruits are okay. There's some debate about potatoes, whether potatoes are safe cooked or not. Because there is this debate, I have never fed my chickens potatoes. Again, it's the if in doubt thing. If there's even a chance it would make them sick, I just don't feed them potatoes cooked or not. But I do absolutely feed them tomatoes. But the idea being the greens of those plants are not good for your chickens because they're nightshade plants and those would be poisonous to your birds. Chocolate is not safe for your chickens. Any sort of highly processed, highly sugary candies. Also anything that's diet or has artificial sweeteners in it. Those artificial sweeteners are toxic to your chickens. So chocolate, highly sweet, highly processed foods, and artificial sweeteners are all poisonous and can be toxic to your birds. So don't feed those to your chickens. Anything that contains caffeine or alcohol is not safe for your chickens. These chemicals are chemicals that they can't process in their bodies. It's not safe for them. It's toxic for them. So if there's alcohol in the food, or if there's caffeine in the food, or any sort of energy supplement, I absolutely would not feed that to your chickens. So anything with alcohol or caffeine, not a safe chicken scrap. And avocados. Avocados are not safe for your chickens. I don't know who out there is trying to feed guac to their chickens, but don't. They cannot digest the avocados properly. They have chemicals in them that are not safe for them. Do not feed your chickens avocados or avocado skins. And just to expand on that, avocados contain something called persin, which is a fungicidal toxin. this can kill your chickens. So that's the reason that avocados, again, are unsafe for your chickens. But again, I wouldn't see this as a practical food to feed them anyway, because them avocados is for me. I want the guac, not for my chickens. So again, but if you have leftover avocados, the skins, the pits, anything about that is just not a safe kitchen scrap for your chickens. So again, just to recap, the processed foods that are highly processed, have a lot of preservatives, high salt or high sugar content, are not going to be safe for your chickens. Spoiled food, anything visibly rotten or moldy or rancid, putrid, is not safe for your chickens. Don't feed them raw meat. And again, I personally don't feed them cooked potatoes or potatoes of any kind. And again, there is a debate within the community about whether that's safe for them or not. I just err on the side of caution. If I don't have to feed them that kitchen scrap, I don't, if there's any chance that it's going to make them sick. So since there is a debate about potatoes, I just avoid them personally. You do you. Other ways that you can use kitchen scraps is for enrichment. They're a great boredom buster for your chickens. We have an eyelet screw that's hung on a string. This is not a high-tech solution of any kind. The homesteading lifestyle isn't a high-cost lifestyle. You are simple, you're adaptive, you use what we have. So just a simple eyelet screw on a piece of string with a scrap of cabbage in it can keep my chickens entertained for hours. They really enjoy it. It's great nutrition for them. It provides a little bit of that foraging and hunting exercise that they need to get, especially when they're confined to their run. So hanging kitchen scraps and allowing them to take apart little pieces is a great way to keep your chickens amused, as well as introduce excellent high-quality nutrition into their diet. We also purchase scrubworms and fly larvae for our chickens as a high protein supplement to their diet. This is a great treat for them. It's a wonderful way to keep them amused as well as have them enjoy this high quality, high protein snack. We can sometimes do a scatter with it and they'll pick up the worms out of the yard, and that's a fun activity for them. And it's also a great training treat if you're trying to teach your chickens to be hand tame. We've had a lot of success with the dry fly and larva that as a treat that has worked really great for us as far as a training tool for our chickens. I want to also take a moment in the process of this video to share that scratch grain is not a replacement for processed complete chicken feed. And the reason being that scratch grain is an absolutely excellent treat. They love it, but scratch grain is like the equivalent of chicken junk food. It would be like feeding them just cotton candy. It has things that they really enjoy, but it doesn't have high protein content. Scratch grain is only 12% protein on average, whereas layer feed is 16%. All flock feed, which is what you would feed to turkeys or geese or larger birds, is 20% protein. Scratch grain just doesn't have the complete nutrition that you're looking for your chickens to be completely healthy and productive to their full potential. So it makes a great treat. It's a great supplement, but it is not a replacement for nutritionally complete layer feed. I always think endeavoring to take the best care of my backyard flock that I possibly can, no matter how I can do it, is always a good way to spend my energy. There are some people who don't agree with that. And again, you make your own choices for you. But I want to stress that taking excellent good care of your chickens and providing them with the most optimum nutrition you possibly can is a great way to help keep them healthy and productive. I've had so many people tell stories about chickens that had stopped laying eggs, and I listen closer to the stories, and ultimately so many times it comes down to they are not receiving adequate nutrition. If you think about your chickens, even just from a purely exchange standpoint, they can't give you what you want from them if they don't have what they need to function as an animal. They're a livestock animal and they have a particular set of nutritional needs that they need in order to be healthy, in order to be productive for you. And I very much see the energy exchange that if you provide your chickens with the best nutrition possible, not only are they going to be healthier, but they're also going to be more productive. It's a wonderful exchange there, and it's worked out really well for us to endeavor to provide them with the best nutrition we can, however we can, and this has allowed them to be wonderful, productive backyard layers for us. I wanted to take a moment here to address some of the questions I've gotten in the comments too about what is particularly the best brand of complete layer feed for your chickens. And my answer to that would be it's going to be the best brand that you can afford to buy, whatever is best for your situation. There are lots of options. We actually had to experiment for quite some time until we found a brand that really helped our backyard chickens thrive. They had healthy feathers, they were productive, and those are going to be the indicators that you found the food that's right for them. It might be time to change if they're dumping most of their food on the floor or if they're scattering it out of their feeders and they're not eating it. That might not be the best brand for them. So don't be afraid to experiment with different kinds of textures, pellets, or crumbles. If you're transitioning to a different kind of food, do so slowly, just like you would with any other kind of animal food. But the best food you can afford for them, that's going to be the best for them. We started with a generic box store brand, and our girls did just fine, and we upgraded when we could. There's nothing wrong with that, but I found it particularly helpful to supplement, again, with the combination approach that I talked about. They may have had just the generic box store brand feed, but we supplemented with healthy kitchen scraps, and that was enough to provide them with excellent nutrition. And then we were able to upgrade to higher feed, which was easier to ferment. Just as you're able to improve the feed that's available to them, that's great. But the best you can do for them is going to be the best you can, and that is fine. And again, the combination approach really gives you a little bit more flexibility, because even if it's a lower quality layer feed that you have access to, if you're supplementing with high quality kitchen scraps, that can sort of balance out that nutritional requirement for your chickens. High quality chicken feeds do cost more, and I understand that is extremely cost prohibitive for a lot of people. The way that we make that feasible for us is we only ferment the high quality brands that we get. When we get an expensive bag of chicken food, I will ferment that and literally double the volume of food that I get from that bag. So instead of it being that bag costs $30, if I ferment it, then I'm getting 2 bags for $15 basically by fermenting it and doubling the volume of food that's available to my chickens. And also the process of fermenting their feed is super simple. I have a whole video just about that on the channel, and I'll put that link below. But it's a very easy process. If you're going to be experimenting with fermenting your chicken feed for the first time, do a small batch first just to make sure that it ferments well. I hope this video was helpful to you. I'll include a list of safe kitchen scraps for your chickens, as well as scraps you should avoid, in the description of this episode, and there'll also be more details on Chuck's blog as well, and I'll link that entry below in the episode notes. I hope you're enjoying all these videos about backyard chickens and homesteading. If you're enjoying my content, please like, share, and subscribe. We would love to have you as part of our flock. Lots of love from our coop to yours. See you next time.